Hi all, and welcome to the official launch of OutBritain and OutScotland. I'm Gareth Buchanan, Director of Diversity and Inclusion at OutBritain, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to sunny Edinburgh, Scotland. I'm joined today in the Edinburgh Grand Hotel by Matt Dabrowski, founder of OutBritain and OutScotland, and we'll be sharing our plans over the coming months, alongside some words from our global LGBT Chamber of Commerce partners and a few others who've helped us get started. We've already received some questions, so thanks to those who've sent them through. As we work through the content, if you have any additional questions or thoughts that you'd like to share, please do feel free to type them in the comments box. Now that we've got the admin out of the way, let's get on with the show. Before I introduce you to Matt, we're going to hear from Justin Nelson, co-founder of the United States LGBT Chamber of Commerce. I don't think it would be an underestimation to say that Justin has been a key player in helping to get OutBritain and OutScotland off the ground. None of which would have been possible without the hard work that Justin and many others have done in establishing the LGBT Chamber of Commerce model in the United States and around the world. So, all that's left for you to do is to sit back, grab a glass of wine, a tea or a coffee, or if you really want to get into the spirit of things, why not a dram of whiskey? And Justin, it's over to you.
Thank you, Gareth, for that very kind introduction. I want to welcome everyone to the call as well and congratulate OutBritain and OutScotland on their launch. Welcome to OutBritain and OutScotland as a part of the NGLCC Global Affiliate Network. I'm Justin Nelson. I am the co-founder and president at the U.S. National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, NGLCC, and NGLCC Global. I use he, him pronouns, and I am thrilled to be able to welcome you all to this program today. We are very excited to be working with OutBritain and OutScotland on one of our premier programs, and that is LGBT supplier diversity. And if you're not sure what that is just yet, you're going to be learning a lot more about it. We work with now over 350 multinational corporations in every industry, and we work with them to ensure that their supply chain, those from whom they're buying products and services, is fully inclusive. And that means buying products and services from LGBT-owned businesses. So our partner now in the UK for this program is OutBritain and OutScotland that will be certifying businesses similar to what we do in the US that ensure that you are owned, operated, and controlled 51% by an LGBT person or persons. And this will allow you to get your foot in the door with major multinationals that are looking to do business with you, not despite the fact that you're LGBT owned, but because you're LGBT owned. And literally hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent every year with LGBT owned companies. This is your opportunity to get your foot in the door, to participate in this program. OutScotland, OutBritain are your direct conduits to being able to do that. So I want to encourage businesses, corporations, other chambers to reach out to OutScotland and OutBritain or to other chambers, depending on your location, and to start building those relationships if you haven't done so already. We are thrilled to have our new partners, and they are your direct link to a global network of LGBT businesses and corporate partners that can help you grow and scale your company. So we are thrilled to be a part of this launch today, and I want to congratulate once again OutBritain and OutScotland and enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. I'm now joined on the couch by Matt Dabrowski, founder of OutBritain and OutScotland. Hi Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gareth.
Now, Matt, despite being the founder of OutBritain and OutScotland, and how can I say this nicely, there's a good reason why you chose me to do the introduction today rather than yourself. Do you care to explain that to the folks?
There's a very good reason. If you can tell, I'm not British or Scottish. I'm originally from New York City. Thought it'd be appropriate that the first voice people hear would be a British one or a Scottish one in this case.
Indeed. Well, it's always nice to be the token Scotsman. So, why don't you start by telling everyone a little bit about yourself?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, and it was because mainly due to my parents. So my dad was a big influence on me growing up. My parents immigrated from Poland to the States, where my dad owned and operated a construction company in the tri-state area. After uni, basically my dad also tried to push me to start another business because I wasn't sure what to do with my career or my path from then on. So my dad was, why don't you take the things you learned at uni, which was international business management, and apply it to your dance career. I was a professional ballroom dancer at that time. So we decided to take a big leap and started a dance school when I was 21 years old. We had that school for about 8 years and had over 500 students come through our doors. It was an amazing opportunity that kind of led me to getting involved with local business groups in the area. I then started volunteering with nonprofits, which led to a political career as well as LGBT activism. Then the opportunity came up to be the executive director of the Connecticut Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. I applied for the position and received it. And so it was an amazing opportunity for me to grow into my own skin, feel more comfortable with who I was, and grow professionally with a community I really didn't even know existed. And so it was an amazing experience.
Brilliant. Now, I should explain to the viewers that one of the purposes of LGBT Chambers of Commerce is to help LGBT businesses to showcase what it is that they do. I did ask Matt before the call today if he'd be willing to give us a demonstration of his dancing. Sadly, he declined, so I'm sure you're all as disappointed as I am in that, and I would encourage you to please pick up with him afterwards if you're as disappointed as I am. Now, Matt, you mentioned that you were chair of the Connecticut LGBT Chamber of Commerce. What did that involve, and what made you think that specific model would work well in the UK?
So it definitely opened up opportunities for LGBT businesses. Before working with them, I didn't know what certification was, how it worked, and I didn't realize how many doors that opened in working with larger corporations. I never realized also how much corporations do to be more inclusive and proactive, especially with the types of practices and especially with reaching out to supply chains and diversifying those. I also realized that there were so many initiatives for underrepresented communities.
Great. And what led you from Connecticut to Scotland in the first place?
It's a really good question. So about 2 years ago, I decided to come here as a tourist. I heard amazing things about Scotland, that it was a beautiful place, immaculate nature. People were amazing. Laughs were awesome. Very easygoing folk, and there was tons of history. I'm a big history nerd for all of you that don't know, and so the castles and the culture and the traditions, it all just blew my mind. So after a few days of being in Edinburgh, I just knew this was going to be my new home.
Brilliant. And what were your initial impressions as an LGBT business person in terms of when you arrived here?
So that's a really good question. The UK and Europe, they have very progressive legislative environments, much different than the US, where every state has different legislation based on employment practices. So in the US, there's still places where you could be fired for being openly gay. Again, that's due to culture, politics, religion, a lot of factors. So people aren't as open about who they are and not as comfortable in their own skin as they are here in Europe.
And so that's what led you to creating OutScotland? You saw an opportunity to do something else here?
Exactly. I also started realizing that there was no one really doing much for the LGBT business community on a nationwide scale. So that was a big priority for why we created OutScotland, and then grew that into OutBritain to cater to England, Northern Ireland, Wales, and of course Scotland. We called the NGLCC. I was very well acquainted with Justin Erasmo. I reached out and I wanted to see if there had been other things that happened here in the UK. And the NGLCC told me that they did do a conference a few years back in London to try to get more people aware of LGBT certification and supplier diversity. So we kind of took the lead on that with Scotland. And why Scotland is a good question. Scotland was just a lot more manageable. So for me as an individual, it's a much smaller place than the rest of the UK. It's got 5 major cities, easy to get around, 5 million people approximately with a population. So it made a lot more sense for me to manage Scotland. But then when we saw the demand and we saw how many people were excited about what we're doing, it kind of grew into a massive project of the rest of the nations. Again, UK is a very big place. Most people don't realize it's approximately 67 million people. And there's over 6 million private sector businesses here. So we definitely have a very long journey ahead of us in trying to find LGBT business owners throughout the country, but I know we'll be very successful, and really looking forward to all the programs and events that are coming this way.
Great, and you really used your connections through, as you mentioned, the NGLCC in the States, and I guess, so have you really relied on your network in terms of helping get the business started here in the UK?
Oh, totally. We've been reaching out to everyone we could. When I did move to Scotland, I was a business development manager for an insurance company, and started reaching out to a lot of the LGBT groups, networking groups locally in Edinburgh and Glasgow. And like I said, there was nothing really central and national. So when we started getting the word out, many businesses, especially those who were in the Highlands and who weren't in the Central Belt, were really fascinated by this idea of having this uniform system across the entire country. Then when we started putting that into the rest of the UK, we just saw that there was tremendous opportunity to work with the LGBT business community.
And of course, that's a great point, because Scotland is quite a geographically diverse country, and as is the UK. And in terms of how some of our cities operate, we're quite London and Edinburgh centric, aren't we? In terms of how business operates, so it's very important to have an eye to some of the other areas and making sure people aren't forgotten about. So what's the reception been like in terms of the conversations you've been having with corporates and smaller businesses?
The reception's been absolutely fantastic. So we've spoken to lots of LGBT business owners here in Scotland, as well as England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And we were blown away with the reception. A lot of interest, as well as from corporates. We realized that this was on par with their messaging, with what their supplier diversity initiatives were for a long-term future. So we saw that there was just an opportunity to work with those.
Great. So, in a nutshell, why don't you explain what OutScotland and OutBritain are and what it is that you're looking to achieve?
Great question. So, first and foremost, the number one thing that we're planning to introduce is our LGBT BE certification. The BE stands for Business Enterprise. So we're standardizing the same certification process that is currently in effect in Canada and in the US. Corporates are very familiar with it, and so they trust it. They've seen that it's been successful and that it works. Secondly, we want to improve LGBT diversity in supplier management. So we want to work with large corporations to make sure that they continue to grow those chains. We also want to provide better networking for small businesses. We know that some events that you go to can be, let's just say, lackluster. So we want to make sure all our events are fun, they're engaging, they're interactive, and it's something that the community can do quite well, especially the LGBT community. Going back to my roots in Connecticut, we were absolutely blown away with how the community worked together and the kinds of events that we put on that were just incredibly memorable. And again, it united the community in a very, very different way. We also want to provide tools and resources for businesses to grow and thrive. So as a small business owner ourselves, you know the challenges we face, from which websites to use, how to create domains, what payment systems to take, lighting, sound, music, legal advice, not all of us are savvy in every single department. We do what we do well. For us, it's diversity and inclusion.
As we sit here today, having learnt about Zoom and video, audio, visual production, etc. Yes, I very much relate to that.
And so we want to share that journey. We want to share that journey with small businesses. And our focus will be small to medium-sized businesses who really want to expand their workforce, want to adapt to a different consumer base, diversify what they do. There's so many amazing things that we'd like to grow that into. And finally, this is, I think, takes precedent over everything I just said. I'm here because I'd like to inspire the next generation of LGBT entrepreneurs, such as shows like Dragon's Den and Shark Tank have done. We really want to be a spotlight for younger people who really want to get into business, who can grow in a community.
Okay, so setting your sights quite high then.
Well, we'd like to be an inspiration to individuals.
Brilliant. Now, you touched on a couple of topics there that for some of our UK listeners might not be as familiar concepts. I'm thinking specifically around things like certification and diversity in supply chain management. And whilst we're going to go into them in a bit more detail later on, why don't you just tell our listeners a little bit more about them just now?
Sure. Well, in the US, there are many organizations that basically check if you are who you say you are, especially when it comes to business ownership. Large companies work with these trusted sources to ensure that a business is owned by that protected characteristic. In the UK, there are organizations, to my knowledge, that do similar things. So we connect for women-owned businesses and MSD UK for ethnic minority-owned businesses. Today, the British LGBT community joins that conversation.
Great. And of course, we'll spend a bit more time looking at certification shortly and what we've got planned for the rest of the year. But before we do that, I've got a couple of, I guess, lighter questions for you. Really just out of interest and very much taking this from a business perspective. So since you arrived in the UK, are there any British brands that you've fallen in love with?
There have been. So one of my favorites are digestive biscuits. One of my first experiences here in Edinburgh, I went out with a friend, she showed me around, and then we got home quite late, it was a cold evening, and she made me a cup of tea and served biscuits, digestive biscuits with that cup of tea. So it's been a tradition now before I go to bed to just have a cup of tea, something herbal, and have a biscuit.
Okay.
One of my favorites also is Innocent Gun Lager, a fantastic Scottish beer made right here in Edinburgh. And of course, the one and famous Iron Brew. If you've not tried Iron Brew, what can we call it? It's a soda fizzy drink that tastes nothing like you've had in the past. It's not orangey, I can promise you that. How would you describe Iron Brew?
Yeah, hard to describe.
You're not a fan.
A Scottish delicacy. One thing I do know about Iron Brew is that where Coca-Cola is the number one soft drink in, I think, most major economies in the world, excuse me, Iron Brew is the number one soft drink in Scotland, and we're one of two countries where Coca-Cola isn't the number one. I think Peru is the other one, or Chile. So interesting fact there for you. It's a strange fizzy drink, yes, full of sugar and what have you, but it's not one I'm particularly partial to myself, but my country folk very much are. Great. So I guess the natural question to ask after that then is, are there any American brands that you've missed particularly?
I do. So first and foremost, I think with all these late nights that we've been having, Tylenol, it's a painkiller. Okay. Which, funny enough, I don't believe Tylenol is sold here in the UK. Yeah. So I've mentioned it a few times to my doctor, and they're always scratching their heads, going, "What is he talking about?"
Is it a brand name or?
It's a brand name. It's Tylenol and Advil. They're the biggest selling painkillers in the US. Another one that I miss very strongly is Home Depot. Whenever you need a do-it-yourself project, something breaks in the house, you need something painted or fixed. If you have a puppy like I do, and he bites a leg off furniture, you need to fix it. You run to Home Depot and you do it. So unfortunately, I do miss Home Depot. They do not have that here in the UK. Another weird one is Irish Spring body wash. So ironically enough, I would think Irish Spring would be a great marketing tactic here in
Well, you would think you'd maybe get it in Ireland, at least. But,
I don't even think they sell it in Ireland.
really.
But it's one of the biggest selling body washes in the US. And finally, KFC. So if we do have anybody watching from KFC, there is a big difference between the KFC in the UK and the KFC in the States. In the States, all your meals are served with a country biscuit, which is kind of a fluffy, doughy bun.
Something different from the biscuits we were talking about.
Yeah, so not sweet and not a cookie, not a sweet cookie. But you usually put gravy on it. They're quite savory and salty. But they don't serve that.
Sure, I'm really understanding that concept. But
Not many people in this country do. So I think KFC really needs to introduce a Southern biscuit into the culture here.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matt. So, as I mentioned, we're going to take a deeper look into some of those issues. Certification and supplier management, not biscuits and Irish body wash, shortly. But before we do that, we're going to take a little short break and hear from one of our global affiliates before taking a look at the business case behind diversity and supplier management. So we're going to pass over to Felipe Cardenas to hear a few words from Colombia. Over to you, Felipe.
Hello, my name is Felipe Cárdenas and I am the president of the Colombian LGBT Chamber of Commerce. In this opportunity, I want to welcome and congratulate for the launch of OutScotland and OutBritain. I want to extend on behalf of our team based in Bogota to Matt and the entire team of these two new entities that are being launched today and joining formally NGLCC Global. The Colombian LGBT Chamber of Commerce is an entity that was founded back in 2012 with the support of the NGLCC, of course, and some embassies that are based in our country and territory, like the Argentinian Embassy, the American Embassy, and the Canadian Embassy. Well, for these almost 10 years of transiting in the Colombian business arena, delivering initiatives for diversity, equality, and inclusion, we have been able to partner with a lot of corporations, organizations, and different businesses, but as well to partner with key entities from foreign governments that are advancing LGBT rights agendas in territories like the Colombian one. That is the case of the UK Embassy based in Bogota. Your embassy in our territory has been a great partner from us in the last couple of years, helping us advancing in a more effective way all the projects we are doing for economic empowerment of the LGBT Colombians. In that sense, it's with high expectations that today we congratulate and welcome officially to NGLCC Global, OutScotland and OutBritain. We are more than happy to receive you in this network, but also with open arms, we offer our experience, and if there is any room for sharing best practices, any advice or any collaboration that we might bring to the table of those first initiatives you are carrying on, please don't hesitate to contact us. Again, welcome to this amazing network, and we hope to be able to get to see you very soon and start partnering between these two new entities and the Colombian Chamber. Thank you very much and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Felipe. As Matt mentioned in the previous section, diversity in procurement and supply chain management is not as established in the UK as it is in some other parts of the world. On that basis, we thought it would be helpful to take a quick look at the business case behind LGBT diversity in supply chain management, its role in UK diversity and inclusion strategy, and some of the challenges that smaller businesses in the UK face when trying to access larger purchasing organisations. Let's start by taking a look at what a diverse supplier is and why working with them is so important. Before I go any further, I should also mention that these slides will be made available after today's session on our website. As I was saying, the business case for diversity and inclusion in business today is well established and understood, from helping to attract and retain the best, most talented and innovative employees and the most diverse customers through to improving profitability. from introducing new ways of engaging with customers and employees on the issues that matter to them, to improving reputations and reducing legal risk. The benefits are numerous and seemingly endless. Knowing many of the people in our audience this afternoon, I'm sure I don't have to spend much time convincing you all of its advantages. But I'm a bit of an evangelist, so here is some research demonstrating those themes anyway. As you can see from the statistics on the screen, there are various ways of measuring how people relate to and value businesses who relate to and value them. As organisations the world over have worked harder to better understand the communities they serve and employ, so too have the organisations that measure their satisfaction. And whilst there is always more work to be done, particularly for certain communities, when a majority of informed UK people think of diverse, inclusive businesses today, they most likely think of those that have progressive, flexible and agile employment practices, diverse representation at the right levels of leadership and throughout their organisations, and strong brands that speak to and advocate for all parts of society. And most of the research available, particularly in relation to the LGBT community, speaks to those specific trends and initiatives. As trying to find accurate data on the UK LGBT population as a whole is challenging for many UK employers and providers, as sexual orientation and gender identity is not data that is easily accessed, finding research on LGBT plus diversity in supplier management in the UK has proven doubly hard. In truth, supply chains and how businesses engage with and work with other businesses in the communities they serve is only starting to enter the diversity and inclusion conversation in the UK, and until now those conversations have largely centred around gender and ethnicity. And whilst aspects of the UK LGBT community will have been included in some of those conversations, today the entire British LGBT business community joins the conversation. A diverse supplier is defined as a business that is at least 51% owned and operated by an individual or group that is part of a traditionally underrepresented or underserved minority group. Common classifications from a UK perspective are disabled persons organisations, black or ethnic minority-owned enterprises, women-owned enterprises, and so on. The history of supplier diversity is, however, firmly rooted in the United States civil rights movement of the 1950s, 60s and 70s. Following race riots in Detroit in 1968, General Motors set up what is regarded as one of the first supplier diversity programs, and much of the American automobile industry followed suit. Early movers in the electronics industry, such as IBM, founding sponsors of the NGLTC, I may add, also established supplier diversity programs around the same time. In the UK, our best, most progressive employers have long recognised the potential to create competitive advantage through inclusive employment initiatives, particularly in terms of innovation, attraction and retention of both customers and talent in service delivery, and the impact that can have on reputation, risk reduction, and more generally in relation to business performance. But it seems that operationally, and certainly in relation to supplier management relationships, a lack of diversity has, in many corners, long been seen as a positive, recognised as cost-effective and safe. But in the ever-changing world of business, factors beyond ethics, business performance and innovation could be aligning for businesses to recognise all of the benefits of diversity in supply chain management. COVID, and from a UK perspective in particular, Brexit, have proven relying on global supply chains is not always realistic, reliable, nor economic. Where economies of scale, realised through working with fewer global suppliers covering multiple business services, may have been en vogue in the past, today's businesses are more likely to recognise that perhaps diversity offers yet another benefit in this area. Previously awarding contracts to multiple smaller, Lesser known but more diverse businesses could be seen as unnecessarily expensive, administratively burdensome, and risky, as many organizations sought to work with fewer larger organizations. In a post-COVID world where many global supply chains collapsed, today's businesses are perhaps more likely to recognize the value of diversity of option and of local supply chains in ensuring uninterrupted, more agile, more innovative, or even backup services. Historically, accessing larger purchasing organizations has been a major challenge for many minority-owned small businesses. One of the most common practices that often disadvantages smaller enterprises is where larger organizations require all suppliers to meet certain standards before they can become a preferred supplier. By requiring all suppliers to meet standards that would normally, legally, only apply to larger entities, smaller, less established businesses are often pushed out. Usually, a little help is all that's needed to bridge that knowledge gap. We've even seen examples of this in the UK where, driven by positive intent, larger purchasing organisations introduce diversity and inclusion standards which require all of their suppliers to meet certain equality standards, such as publishing a diversity and inclusion standard or sharing gender and diversity pay gaps publicly. In this case, the very thing designed to encourage inclusion in suppliers often excludes or discourages diverse businesses because they lack the know-how, scale, or established history to tick all of the required boxes. COVID and Brexit have been tough for UK businesses and UK people in all aspects of business and life, but more so for those from minority communities. If we can take one positive from these globally impactful events, it is that they could encourage organisations to consider alternative, local, smaller providers who can guarantee uninterrupted service, which when considered alongside the clear economic, reputational and ethical arguments make it very hard to argue against. I'm sure all of you would agree. But COVID, Brexit, and complicated procurement processes are not the only challenges that diverse suppliers face. As we've already established, many lack the know-how to put their businesses forward in a way that works for larger organisations. But perhaps more importantly, many more small businesses, and particularly those from underrepresented and minority communities, often lack access to the networks and connections to even put their business case forward in the first place. These factors impact many minority-owned businesses, but where the LGBT plus community differs from others is in relation to the choice that exists in relation to being an out business or not. Quite simply, many LGBT plus business owners in the UK don't yet see value in being out in business. As in life, being out in business brings its own risks, and the benefits are not always clear. Even in one of the safest countries in the world for LGBT plus people, that fear still exists for too many. All of these collective factors can put small and minority-owned businesses at a disadvantage. And whilst compliance with the buyer's procurement requirements has been a potential obstacle for many UK-based LGBT businesses until now, we'll be aiming to change that through a programme of mentoring, education and upskilling initiatives designed to both support small businesses to make the step up and to help larger businesses to become easier to work with. Ultimately, we want the UK's LGBT business community to feel as included as many as the UK's employees and customers increasingly do. Our leading corporations have made major strides in relation to LGBT plus inclusion in employment and service provision over preceding years, but small businesses, supplier management and procurement has been a major gap in the UK inclusion for too long. Alongside our own ongoing efforts to connect purchasers with UK-based LGBT plus owned businesses, we'll be pulling on our corporate partners to help us deliver much of what we want to achieve, and conversations so far are extremely positive. With many organisations today looking for ways to shift their organisational efforts from approaching diversity as a programme to approaching inclusion as a business strategy, diversity in supplier management and procurement is often the natural next step and the missing piece in that jigsaw. Similarly, this provides truly devoted organisations with an opportunity to demonstrate their commitment beyond the confines of their own organisations. So what are the organisational benefits of diversifying your supply chain and seeking to work with more suppliers with different perspectives and backgrounds? Firstly, and most importantly, it's the right thing to do. The communities our businesses exist to serve are wonderfully diverse. If our businesses and their employee and leadership populations, their third-party providers, vendors, partners, suppliers and contractors don't also reflect that wonderful diversity, then the chances of the organisation meeting their community's needs are hugely reduced. After all, would you spend money somewhere that didn't at least try to understand your needs by listening to people like you, or try to represent what is important to you by employing and engaging people from your community? It is, however, important to recognise that this is not all about ethics and purpose. Supplier diversity programs have the ability to deliver in terms of both corporate social responsibility and competitive advantage. They can form part of a company's efforts to maintain and demonstrate high moral, ethical and legal standards, reducing risk and improving reputation, while achieving legitimate business aims, such as improving innovation, service and reducing cost. Inclusive procurement also delivers broader societal benefits by generating economic opportunities for disadvantaged communities and by role modelling inclusive behaviours. Larger purchasing organisations can also leverage their experience and purchasing power to support underrepresented businesses globally as a matter of good business practice, creating a more level playing field for those businesses that remain underrepresented by nature of their population size or acceptance in society. As mentioned previously, corporates and organisations sharing their experience in terms of how smaller, diverse businesses can navigate internal processes can be extremely valuable, and that's what we ask from our sponsors and partners, that they be willing to commit to supporting our small businesses to develop their capabilities, and we're delighted with the response that we've received so far. Aside from these moral and ethical arguments, there are sound commercial reasons for creating supplier diversity programs. An inclusive procurement strategy widens the pool of potential suppliers and promotes competition in the supply base, which can improve product quality and drive down costs. And by providing more sourcing options, inclusiveness can make supply chains more resilient and agile, an increasingly important advantage in a post-COVID, post-Brexit world. In terms of innovation, working with diverse partners provides opportunities to explore new perspectives, ideas, new products, new services, and new experiences. From idea generation through to reinvigoration of products, processes, and services, alternative viewpoints from communities who represent those people who use your products can transform a business's ability to create and serve with purpose. Just as a diverse workforce can transform an organization's ability to innovate and better understand and meet customers' needs, so too can well-formed relationships with partners, suppliers, and vendors. It stands to reason that a diverse workforce, working with diverse suppliers and vendors, is more likely to understand and meet the needs of a diverse consumer population. Where a sense of complacency and sameness in thinking is more likely in homogeneous teams, diverse teams become better prepared for decision-making and accomplishing the task at hand because of their differences. Differences among colleagues force each individual to anticipate that there will be alternative and unexpected viewpoints to consider and evaluate. Reaching consensus takes more effort. As people work harder to communicate their own thinking, they broaden their own views and consider the unexpected perspectives of others. This takes more work and preparation, but it's significantly valuable to organizations who want to create well-considered solutions that truly deliver value for their people. When teams see things in a variety of ways, they are more likely to recognize new and different market opportunities and can better appreciate unmet market needs. Diverse teams are more capable of addressing market segments with demographics similar to some of their team members. A 2013 Harvard Business Review affirmed that when at least one team member shared a client's ethnicity, the team was more than twice as likely to understand that client's needs than teams where no member shared that trait. By bringing in new, diverse perspectives, not just in their employee populations, but through their supply chains too, organizations can not only enhance their own capabilities and cultures, they can also identify new ways to meet customer employee needs beyond the confines of their own organizations, and they can help make the world a better, more accepting place while doing so. Which takes us nicely into how all of this impacts an organization's reputation. Supplier diversity programs are increasingly becoming a selling point when hiring and when attracting custom. How motivated people research the organizations they work for and with has changed hugely in the digital age, a trend that is only likely to continue in the future. With ethical considerations proving hugely influential on people's choices, and sustainability and diversity and inclusion statistics having a much greater impact on the opinions and decisions of each new generation, initiatives like pay gap reporting and diverse supplier spend statistics provide motivated people with authentic and measurable ways in which to rate an organization's commitment to underrepresented communities and causes through channels that weren't available to previous generations. Looking ahead, employers should understand that employee expectations surrounding the diversity and inclusion initiatives, both internal and external, are becoming more nuanced. The rewards are worth it, but efforts have to be about more than putting a rainbow sticker on your logo once a year. 52% of respondents to a survey conducted for UPS by Hootology, a specialised marketing and consumer insights research firm, said they want to work for a company that has a supplier diversity and inclusion programme. That specific research helped to shape UPS's approach to recruitment, because letting candidates know about their supplier diversity efforts wasn't something they had ever considered before the research was conducted. Globally, communities increasingly expect employers to drive change not just internally but in society, and their understanding of how they can do so and how they can be held to account for their efforts is improving all the time. Employees across all parts of the world increasingly believe that the companies they work for and do business with should engage in external diversity and inclusion initiatives, such as promoting supply chain and distribution channel diversity, pro bono efforts, and early career or cradle-to-career initiatives. In a recent McKinsey survey, almost 100% of employees in emerging economies agreed that employers should engage in external measures. This compared with 83% of employees in the United Kingdom, 80% in France, 77% in the States, and 65% in Germany. McKinsey's own executive survey results suggest there is an opportunity for businesses to do much more here. For example, only 41% of companies had made pro bono commitments, only 47% had supported early career or cradle-to-career initiatives, and only 50% had set goals for supply chain diversity. With other certification bodies providing ownership authentication in relation to female-owned businesses and ethnic minority-owned businesses, accessing the LGBT business community has proven trickier for corporates in the UK until now, which isn't to suggest that what we're aiming to achieve will be easy. Let's now take a look at how OutBritain and OutScotland will be helping LGBT plus businesses here in the UK. Throughout today's discussion, we've touched on LGBT plus certification, but what is it and why is it important? In essence, LGBT plus certification serves two distinct purposes. Firstly, it allows LGBT plus businesses to seek and obtain official recognition of LGBT plus ownership status, allowing business owners and leaders to share in their success and to role model the best of their community to the world. Secondly, it provides businesses who want to demonstrate their commitment to minority and underrepresented groups with a way to engage with and onboard suppliers who are officially recognised as belonging to those groups. In a world where businesses want to improve diversity in their supply chains, finding and accessing diverse businesses is tough, particularly with privacy legislation making it harder to proactively identify providers who meet that criteria. By providing an avenue for the UK's LGBT plus owned businesses to seek and obtain certification, proving that they are indeed LGBT plus owned enterprises, we're introducing an approach that has already reaped dividends for LGBT businesses in other parts of the world. And by introducing the same certification process that is operated by the United States LGBT Chamber of Commerce and the Canadian LGBT Chamber of Commerce, we're ensuring that we retain an element of consistency that makes working with the LGBT business community globally easy and universal, no matter where your business is based. But certification alone won't change the world. Demonstrating the value in being out in business is a major challenge for ourselves at OutBritain and OutScotland, and for those businesses who want to work with the LGBT plus business community. With that in mind, our annual calendar of events and activity is planned to turn up the dial in LGBT inclusion and supplier diversity in the UK. So how will OutBritain and OutScotland, alongside our corporate partners, help the UK's LGBT plus businesses to traverse those challenges and help them and the world's businesses benefit from LGBT plus diversity in supplier management? We'll be organising ourselves around 4 key themes: connecting, learning, meeting, and giving back. Connecting is all about facilitating opportunities for the UK's LGBT plus business community to meet, network and engage with businesses who want to work with them on topics of mutual interest with a view to creating lasting relationships. We have global businesses reaching out to us on a daily basis, asking for access to the UK's LGBT plus businesses. By creating opportunities for both parties to meet around areas of commonality, we'll demonstrate that there is value in being an out business in the UK. We'll also be creating opportunities for business to show and tell what they do and how they do it. By giving British LGBT plus businesses a platform, we'll showcase the very best of our community. With global trade missions already planned to Colombia, Canada and Sweden, and more in the works, our reach won't be limited to the UK. Pulling on our local and global affiliations and partnerships, we're introducing and promoting the British LGBT plus business community to the world's largest LGBT plus business network and the world's businesses. Much of this activity will naturally be designed and aligned to specific industries and sectors, allowing for more nuanced and targeted conversations and connections. From a learning perspective, we'll touch on subjects as diverse as we are. From supporting small businesses to do more with less, to deep dives into topics like diversity and inclusion in the workplace and in supplier management, naturally, or taxation, sustainability, privacy and technology. Using a number of different delivery methods, from panel discussions through presentations, webinars and focus groups, we'll offer diverse ways in which people can join the conversation. Naturally, because of COVID, much of our activity this year has been pushed online. In many respects, this hasn't been a bad thing, as universal accessibility has always been at the front of our minds. And whilst it's always great to meet up, we know that's not always possible for a number of reasons. Going forward, we'll be looking to get the balance right between face-to-face events and digital. And wherever possible, our face-to-face events will include digital coverage. From a social perspective, we'll be organising a number of events in different locations throughout the UK as we move out of lockdowns and back into normality. We'll also soon launch our mentoring and reverse mentoring programmes, offering LGBT businesses and entrepreneurs the opportunity to work with more established leaders to improve networks, know-how and opportunities, and offering our corporate partners the opportunity to be reverse mentored by members of the LGBT plus community, with a view to better understanding the communities they exist to serve. Getting active and looking after our well-being is so important and so often taken for granted. And with that in mind, we're working with different LGBT plus well-being and sports organisations to create opportunities for our members to work, play and give something back. In fact, we'll hear from one of those organisations, Leap Sports, shortly. Our annual conference is an opportunity to take stock of the year gone and to look ahead. By bringing together our members, sponsors and partners, we'll share information regarding our performance and plans. We'll listen to what you want us to focus on in the months and years ahead. We'll also take the opportunity to celebrate the best of our community and supporters by recognising those people and businesses who have stepped up and out for their community, or who have welcomed our community into theirs. Deserve recognition, and whilst we recognise that the real reward for inclusion is diversity, we know that a little celebration can't hurt, and nor can giving back. We will therefore be offering a startup fund, helping LGBT entrepreneurs start businesses, particularly those who have had difficulty accessing funding through conventional means. And our annual charity masquerade ball will both put into the spotlight and benefit our chosen charities, whilst offering an opportunity to get together, of course. In terms of membership, we're completely free for charities and social enterprises, and we have a hardship fund for businesses who are struggling to meet the membership fees. If that applies to you, please do reach out, and you can trust that all discussions will be dealt with in the strictest confidence. Finally, we'll offer our members exclusive access to knowledge, tools and resources to help run your business, employ and engage your people and suppliers. From our recruitment advertising board to training, thought leadership and much more, there's sure to be something for every business, whatever your shape, size or purpose. And that brings us to the end of this section. We're now going to hear from Daryl Sherman from the Canadian LGBT Chamber of Commerce. And when we return, we have some further videos, and then we'll move into our Q&A section. Thanks for your time.
Greetings from Canada. I'm Daryl Sherman, co-founder and CEO of the CGLCC, Canada's LGBT+ Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations to everyone at OutScotland and OutBritain for the launch of these two organizations. Having formal associations that focus on LGBT+ business is important and critical to the economic empowerment of our community and to our broader economies on a whole. Here in Canada, we know that LGBT+ businesses continue to face unique barriers. And through programming like supplier diversity, inclusive trade, inclusive tourism, and mentoring for young queer entrepreneurs, we can help them overcome these challenges, enabling them to grow and succeed. So on behalf of everyone at CGLCC and our entire Canadian network of LGBT+ businesses, corporate and government partners, and LGBT+ business leaders, I wish you much success with OutScotland and OutBritain, and offer our continued support to ensure we are all building an inclusive global economy.
Congratulations, OutScotland, OutBritain, on your launch. My name is Pinky Gadiali. I'm the founder and CEO of netwomen.co. We are a global organisation inspiring and supporting women, helping create opportunities all around the world and helping you create your killer mindset, whether that be in your business or your career. We do this and believe in diversity, inclusion and belonging to help you make a difference and make a difference to others. We do this through our workshops, our mastermind groups and our coaching. If you would like to know more and be a part of this program, we will be doing more things with OutScotland and OutBritain.
Hello, my name is DJ Bullock and I am the founder and community relations manager here at 4 Pillars. 4 Pillars is the local LGBT+ charity based in Grampian. Our aim is to support the community with matters of mental, emotional, physical and sexual health. In order to do that, we offer various outreach, one-to-ones, group support, social groups and interactions. We also provide the only LGBT hub based in northeast of Scotland. The hub itself is open from Tuesday to Saturday, 10 till 6, for anybody to walk in, get advice, information, support and whatever they need when they need it. We are absolutely thrilled to be working with OutScotland and are pleased to announce our partnership with them and look forward to the ongoing relationship throughout the years. Thank you.
Hi, Hugh Torrance here from Leap Sports Scotland. We are Scotland's LGBTIQ+ sports charity, working to improve equality and diversity within sport. and to ensure that LGBTIQ plus people can access, participate and excel within sport in Scotland. Just want to take a moment to acknowledge the hard work of Matt and all the team from OutScotland and OutBritain, and to say a huge congratulations to you on your launch today. And also to say it has been a pleasure to work in partnership with you so far, and looking forward to lots of collaboration going forward.
OutBritain and OutScotland membership packages are available to organisations of all shape, size and purpose. Based on company size according to employee headcount, our benefit packages are visible on screen now. Once registered, members gain access to our database of members and sponsors, which alongside our annual calendar of events, activities and promotions, create endless opportunities for collaboration, learning, social enterprise and naturally, the procurement of goods and services. Being an LGBT plus owned business or an LGBT ally brings more advantages than ever before. Our corporate partners want to do business with the LGBT plus community here in the UK, and by joining OutBritain and OutScotland, you'll be creating opportunities to connect your business to the most inclusive, welcoming brands in the UK and beyond. You'll have endless opportunities to network, learn, and to show off the best of what you do, all while making the LGBT business community here in the UK a more inclusive and welcoming place for enterprise. Find out more and sign up at www.outbritain.co.uk if you're based in England, Wales or Northern Ireland, or www.outscotland.co.uk if you're based in Scotland. OutBritain and OutScotland sponsors recognise the inherent fairness in supply chain and procurement diversity, and play a key role in walking the walk by adding value to and developing functional, lasting relationships with our members. By helping us to deliver activity that both creates opportunity for the UK's LGBT plus businesses, and by helping to bridge any knowledge or skills gaps, they are true inclusion role models who seek to engage LGBT plus suppliers in their own supply chains, but also recognise the need to give back to the LGBT plus business community. Working together to support common goals, no two sponsorship relationships will be the same. As each party brings different strengths and aims, so too will our partnerships, as we seek to pull on each partner's knowledge and expertise to add value and create opportunity for our members. With packages designed for every budget, being a supply chain diversity role model in the UK, and accessing the UK's LGBT plus certified business community is surely a given. Interested businesses can find out more and sign up at www.outbritain.co.uk. All that's left to say is a very heartfelt thanks from all of us here for joining us today. It is hugely appreciated, the support that we've had from across the globe in terms of getting the organisation started. We're hugely excited about what we are going to achieve over the coming years, and none of that would have been possible without all of you, and none of it will be possible without all of you. So on behalf of Matt and myself, thank you, and we look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Thank you.